The Champions League week has finally arrived as we are set to put out some fireworks and have a heated clash with Inter Milan. And I know if you're a Barcelona fan, this video is going to be very fruitful to you, but at the same time, it's just going to give you more questions as well, as we will be analyzing the strengths and weaknesses of Inter Milan, as this is going to be an electrifying clash between Barcelona and Inter Milan. As always, guys, please do subscribe to the channel. It's going to help us a lot to get this family to grow. But let's start the video right away. To be fair, Inter Milan defends in a mid to high block with Thuram and Martinez going on to your centre backs, but it's easier, like we saw Bayern do, to have a player in this area right here where you can easily create a back three against Inter Milan's two players as well. However, the front two of Martinez and Thuram doesn't really put pressure onto the players. I think they're more focused on cutting out those passing lanes, where you can see even in the game against Bayern would actually drop one of the centre backs or fullback, whatever it may be, in order to come into these areas and make the Inter Milan press basically ineffective. To solve the problem of being outnumbered many a times when the ball would go out wide, you would see that Inter Milan wants one of their midfielders to push onto a player. However, that creates another problem where they leave a big gaping hole. In the situation, we see that Bayern was able to draw Barella out of his position, and if they do this against Barca, this is going to cause some serious trouble for them. And Bayern also had one of the wingers invert into that space, which I don't think it was a great idea against this Inter Milan side. I would rather prefer them let a midfielder do it and pull that wing back wide. The reason I prefer a midfielder to come into this position is because Inter Milan many a times use one of the centre backs to actually make up for that position right here. But then that leaves their wing backs in a 2-on-1 situation against a winger and a fullback, for an example. In this instance right here, we see that Benjamin Pavard is already getting himself ready in order to see whoever is going to come into that space, he's going to cover that player as well. But this is the one I wanted to show you. Look at him going onto the midfielder already as he's dropping in. So he's leaving a big gaping hole, ultimately leaving Leroy Sané one-on-one against the wingback. That's why I say he should stay right. But also Ferran Torres, in this case, it's Kane, can drop in that space. In fact, two of AC Milan's goals came as a result of Mkhitaryan being drawn into a press where I think it was Jovic dropping into that space. However, Bastoni was really hesitant on whether to press or not, and he leaves this player, ultimately allowing him to switch the ball, leading to the goal. This actually happened in the first goal with Mkhitaryan drawing out of his position, and the winger in this case would actually draw out the wing back. And now you would see that it was Luka Jovic that would drop into that position, into that space to receive the ball. And look at how much space he have. Imagine Dani Olmo having this much space. And he's really hesitant on whether to or not to go out. And he leaves him alone ultimately. And that allows him to actually go out and switch the ball wide. And like I said, imagine Dani Olmo, Pedri and Frenkie de Jong getting the ball in this area. He switches the ball and the ball goes out wide. And ultimately the ball gets put into the box and AC Milan scores their first goal. In the third goal, same thing. Henrik Mkhitaryan goes out to help Lautaro Martinez, and there's a player dropping into that space in order to receive the ball. The centre back is hesitant to actually press him, leaves him having time on the ball, and you see that Harry Kane run that one of the players made in behind, ultimately scoring the third goal for AC Milan. Here we see Mkhitaryan going up high in order to make up for the numerical disadvantage that Inter Milan has. And look at the gaping hole he leaves behind him, right? Imagine them doing this against Barcelona. I hope they do it. The centre back, however, is really hesitant on whether he should go out and press and put pressure on the ball, ultimately leaving them with time and space. And look at the space that this guy has in between the lines. And you can see the ball then goes out wide to the player there, because if the player comes out, if the centre back comes out, everybody shifts across. So now the player out wide has the ball, and you can see there's a run being made in behind. And man, if Inter Milan does this against Barcelona, we might score 15 goals against them, which is wild to me. Inzaghi many a times also have Martinez coming over, leaving Mkhitaryan in his position, and they would all sift across in order to cancel out that big hole they leave. But this is something that Barcelona can play into, having players going over and actually force them, and therefore you would see the likes of Inigo being in these positions to receive, and therefore we can get Rafinha in one-on-one situations. If Barcelona want to make more space, even Rafinha can invert, and therefore Gerard Martino, whoever plays there, can easily overlap as well. Over here, we can perfectly see that Lautaro is coming over, ultimately leaving Mkhitaryan in the situation in his position to be able to defend. And the numbers are even here, right? But look at Barella also not pressing and being able to defend and having a 2-on-2 situation. But look at how much space the other guys will have on the other side of the pitch as well. But Inter also have this thing where they shift across and then the midfielder would go out and press, ultimately leaving the two to also shift. But that creates another problem where the fullback can also go into that position as well. Because Inter Milan is at a constant numerical disadvantage up front, it seems like Inzaghi wants his midfielders to actually make up for this, where they leave their positions and ultimately leaving space for the opposition to actually take advantage of. Where simple movements of the opposition can easily undo this Inter Milan side, and the opponents can actually get their midfielders into these positions. And we saw that Bayern Munich and AC Milan did this constantly. In Milan's first and last goal, you can see that look at their three players at the edge of the box and look at where's the midfielders. Mkhitaryan is not even in the picture right here, which is crazy because it seems like, look at him arriving late. It seems like they're always catching up because they have to move when their front two are outnumbered. And whatever the opposition do, that is up to the midfielders to make up for that, which creates acres of space in these areas right here. Look at where the midfielders of Inter Milan is right here. And that is just disastrous. And this is the third goal where this is actually happening, and look at how narrow they are sometimes, defending extremely narrow. Look at Leroy Sané in acres of space where he can easily manipulate the opposition, where the centre backs can even run into that. And look at how unorganized they are. They have a bunch of players there, but look at the amount of space at the edge of the box. And I know this can happen to other teams, but Inter Milan is just crazy. By no stretch of the imagination am I saying Barcelona is going to hammer this Inter Milan side. Yes, they do have defensive frailties, but at the same time, they also have things that they do really good. When Inter Milan looks to build up, it's always two of the three centre-backs that would split on either side of the keeper, where one of the centre-backs would actually go and fulfill like this full-back position, where the wing-back now has the license to go forward in order to go and stretch the opposition. But whichever side they build out from, that wing back on that side actually comes in a lot deeper in order to pull these players into a press, ultimately creating this space where the likes of Lautaro Martinez can actually come and take advantage of. Having five centre backs means the likes of Pavard can be utilized as a midfield in this case, look how narrow he is, or he could be utilized as a fullback, and that allows Darmian to go up high in order to create that extra option high up the pitch. But the wingback that they build up towards is a little bit deeper, ultimately drawing a player. And look at how Kimmich has to acknowledge the space because Lautaro Martinez is going to drop right into that pocket. Building out through one side has its advantages for Inter Milan because of the fact that the teams have to shift. And with the fact that Lautaro Martinez is probably going to be followed by one of the fullbacks, that means the backline of the opposition has to shift, where they could actually now showcase their incredible link-up play in between the lines. And don't forget Darmian, who's going to go through that flank. And they did this countless times against Bayern. This big, strong number 9 actually plays a big role in getting Inter Milan up the pitch. And look at how the midfielders now waits for that link-up play and expects the ball to come in there. And it actually comes, and look at how the wing-back is actually running into that space. And like I said, Thuram actually plays a huge part. So if Barcelona can really be on his back and actually put pressure on him and not allow him to lay off the ball to his compatriots, Barcelona would really have a great time. But I do think Barcelona's gegenpressing and counterpressing is going to play a huge role because this guy and these wingbacks, they fly into the box. And this is many a times how they win corners and they play and score from set pieces. When teams look to press the back three of Inter Milan, they like to alter their shape in building up with a back two, where one of the centre backs would actually go out wide in order to draw one of the wingers away from the positions. And therefore also the movement of these three players is really something to behold, as many times this is encouraged to actually draw players from their position. This is actually a trap to set up the movement in order to get Lautaro Martinez in these areas where he could receive the ball, in the hopes that one of the fullbacks or the defenders would actually follow him, where they could easily play the other players in behind, especially the wing backs. Here we see the two centre backs of Inter Milan, even though they typically line up as a back three. And you can see also Mkhitaryan and Barella likes to drop into these areas in order to also draw players out of position. You can see the dynamic of Lautaro and Thuram is also very important for this Inter Milan side, and this is why Lewandowski is so important. But Barcelona fans, oh, we should sell Lewandowski. He creates space, and look at how Lautaro Martinez drops, and that centre back of Bayern Munich in this case leaves an acre, literally a bus that you can park there, is space. One of Inter Milan's biggest weapons is also how they are able to find their wingbacks doing blindside runs. They are not scared to kick the ball straight from Bastoni straight into the likes of Lautaro Martinez and Thuram as well, as they would simply shift the whole team across, and the blindside runs the likes of Darwin is doing is absolutely crazy. Shifting across and also kicking the ball long is something that Inter Milan do quite a lot with Bastoni, so the press is going to be really good, or we're going to have to play Ronald Araujo to win these aerial battles for Barcelona. Here you can see they have the ball in the scramble, and they like to do and make things ugly, make everything a scramble or simply like a brawl, where Damian, you see nobody's marking him because he did it blindsidely. Nobody noticed him, nobody's marking him or thinking about him, and that is when they shift the whole team across. You can see Mkhitaryan dropping onto the ball. There's also a common theme, and this is to drag players across the pitch and over to one side, where the likes of Lautaro Martinez in particular would come into this area, where one of the midfielders and the striker would actually push the back line back. And again, I'm going to say this, Lewandowski, this is why we have been doing so well. Lewandowski does this great. Barella then runs in behind, and look at where is that wing back making a blindside run, and the guy close to him is very on his laurels, and then he gets in behind. And this is great and high quality chances that Inter Milan also create. So they are dangerous in their own right in possession as well. Well, I think this is a more than decent analysis of Inter Milan's frailties and also their strengths, right? I do want you guys to please drop your predictions in the comment section below, and also what do you think. This is a new way of me editing the videos. I do want to warn you guys, it does take a little bit longer to do because there's a lot more editing going into it. But as always, do subscribe to the channel. It's going to help us a lot to get this family to grow bigger. We upload weekly Barcelona content only. I will see you in the next one.